everyone, and welcome to the Hot Corner. I'm your host, Brandon Magown, and I'm joined here today by Otto and Ellie Schuckman. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. It has only been a little over a week since the postseason has started, but a ton has happened. The ALDS seems like it came and went in a flash, and the NLDS wrapped up just as quickly. We'll talk about the divisional series and take a look ahead at the championship series. So let's start by talking about the teams in the American League. Our first question is, do you think the Orioles has what it takes to win the World Series this year? Otto, we'll start with you.
I think they do. I don't know if they necessarily will win the World Series, but I definitely know they have all the pieces. Buck Showalter came to the team 2010, and he changed the entire mentality of the locker room. He put into a winning culture in Baltimore, something they haven't seen in 20 years. I know they didn't make the playoffs last year, but because Boston was very strong, they won. Yankees are always strong. Tampa was very strong with their young guys. But this year they capitalized on the AL East being weak, the entire year. They brought in Nelson Cruz. He hit 40 home runs. He's brought a veteran.
Yeah, he was huge this year.
Yeah, he's brought veteran leadership to the club and playoff experience. He's gone to the World Series twice. Their whole outfield is great. Jones, Markakis, Cruz. They've been sensational, good hitters, great outfielders. Their pitching hasn't been great, but it's been consistent. And I think that that's a winning formula for success in the postseason. They swept the Tigers, which is very strong showing. The Tigers are very, very solid pitching, and they're going to face the Royals, and I think they'll be able to beat them in a 7-game series.
I think they're matched up pretty evenly against the Royals. But Ellie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I think this series is really going to put both teams to the test. I mean, Kansas City's on a tear right now. The way they've played these last 4 games, no one expected them to be here, but sure enough, here they are. And with pitchers like the Orioles have, like Tillman, they have a really solid bullpen, strong defense, strong offense. I think their biggest challenge is really going to be taming the Royals' speed. And with outfielders in the arms like Markakis and Jones, they can throw in really quickly, and I think that's really going to be the test. If they can manage to slow down the Royals, I think they have a good shot. Yeah,
the question all year was, do they have the starting pitching for it? They don't really have a bona fide ace, but besides James Shields for the Royals, they don't really either. So I think their starting rotation matches up pretty well, and then both bullpens. I know Kansas City has a great bullpen there, but I think between Andrew Miller, Zach Britton out there, Tommy Hunter for Baltimore. I think they match up pretty well, as just as good. So it should be a very fun series. I'm hoping it'll go at least 6 to 7. Be fun to watch all week long. So let's move on to a second question. Are you surprised by the Royals so far, and how far do you think they can make it? Ellie, we'll start with you.
Well, my answer would have been really different not 2 weeks ago, but looking at how well they've played these last 4 games, they're a force to be reckoned with. Now, this is a team that hasn't made the postseason in 30 years, not since they last won it in '85. But going back to July, they're 2 games below 500. No one thinks of them as playoff contenders. They don't think of themselves as playoff contenders. Sure enough, though, they get on a hot streak. Oakland slips a little bit, and they end up versing Oakland in the wild card game. Here we think it's going to be this epic pitchers duel. We have Lester and Shields, and they combine for 17 runs. I mean, who would have thought? Yeah. But their speed, like we said, it's carried them a long way, and that's not going anywhere. And as long as they have an offense and a defense who's backing them up, which so far they have had, there's nothing wrong with relying on that speed. So I think the series is really going to put both teams to the test, like we said, but I think they have a good shot.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, when they brought Ibanez in mid-season, I mean, he had a team meeting with them saying, hey, listen, I mean, you guys are good. People fear playing you. So he really, told them that, listen, you're a team that, has a shot of, going far, and so far they're proving it. But what do you think, Otto?
I think they definitely have a lot of potential. The main thing is that they're young guys, so there's not a lot of pressure on them to win, as opposed to guys who, have failed or have succeeded previously in the postseason that, people expect them to win. I remember reading a Sports Illustrated article about them a couple years ago, how they had these young guys who were really good prospects. They had the best farm system in the league, and lo and behold, 2-3 years later, they're in the playoffs, the championship series. So guys like Hosmer and Moustakas, who were valued prospects back a couple years ago, are now up-and-coming superstars in the league, and especially young leaders for this team. And I think while the inexperience may come to haunt them, especially late in the series, I think they can put up a fight against Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing everything right now. I mean, they have the starting pitching going well. They obviously, like we said, have the best bullpen in baseball, at least in my opinion. They're beating you with their speed. They have the best, probably, defense in the league. And, they also, they had the fewest home runs in all of baseball. They didn't even break 100, had 95, and yet they, beat the Angels with the long ball as well. Yeah. So they're playing some really great baseball right now. Everything is clicking for them. I think they can, if they beat Baltimore, I think they have a shot at winning the World Series. Yeah, but it'll definitely, like we said, be fun to watch.
Right.
But all right, that'll do it for our first segment. After the break, we'll get into our rapid-fire questions. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Hot Corner. It's now time for our rapid-fire segment. I'll ask each analyst 3 questions, and they'll have 30 seconds to answer. Otto, we'll start with you. Why do you think Clayton Kershaw struggles so much in the postseason?
I don't know. He's faced St. Louis both times this year and last year, so maybe it's just against St. Louis. But the other main argument is that maybe he just doesn't have it in him for the postseason. He's still a young guy, so that still comes. But it's very, very weird to see him have such a great season, record-setting season, but struggle so much in the postseason. Now, the first game, Game 1, he just got lit up. But second game, he was pitching well to the sixth inning, dominating clearly until he gave up that home run to Adams of the Cardinals. I don't really know why just some people just don't have the playoff in him, the playoff performance that they step up their game.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he was doing really well. He only had one hit through, I think, the first 6 innings, but now they got a little trouble after that. But it's sad to see because he's definitely the best pitcher in baseball right now. But Ellie, we'll move on to your first question. Do you think replay has had an impact so far, or will it have an impact going forward in the playoffs?
I think absolutely. Anytime you have a playoff game, every call matters, and the replays this year have confirmed and overturned a lot of key calls already. We had Giants versus Nationals, Game 2. Posey's confirmed out at home plate. If that call maybe was originally called safe or something like that, maybe it wouldn't have gone into 18 innings. We had Cardinals versus Dodgers, also Game 2. Calls overturned, and now Greinke's safe at second base. Plays like this really add up, and I think as we head deeper into the playoffs, we're going to see them count even more.
Yeah, and I think I was waiting to see a big replay at the plate, with that new blocking rule, but so far it really hasn't happened. Yeah. But so far I think, like you said, the replay is working really well so far in the playoffs. Otto, for your second question, what players will have the biggest impact in the championship series and beyond?
Well, I think it's guys who have had previous success. Guys like Adam Wainwright, Nelson Cruz, Hunter Pence. These guys are proven veterans. They bring leadership to the club and to the clubhouse, inside the locker room. And I think they have it in them. They've performed previously. We know Wainwright has won the World Series back in 06 and 11. We know he can get it done. He's gotten it done in the DS. Nelson Cruz has also hit a couple home runs in the division series. Hunter Pence, always very clutch player back in Philadelphia and
in San Fran.
Yeah, in San Fran.
I don't know if you saw the game last night, but he made an amazing catch out there on the outfield.
Yeah, so we know he can get it done.
Exactly, and his bat is always something to be reckoned with. Yeah. So he's definitely a player to watch. Ellie, for your second question, what could the Dodgers have done differently to advance the championship series?
Flat out, have better pitching. I mean, you're not going to win a ball game without pitching. They started off Game 1, 10-9 loss. Yeah, their offense was able to get them 9 runs, but when your pitchers give up 10, you're going to lose, and that's exactly what we saw. And we saw it again in Game 3. Elpert's brought in to replace Rue. He gives up a decisive 2-run homer, and that's the ball game right there. So you got to have pitching to win a ball game, especially when it comes to playoffs.
I know. I mean, they just let up. It seems like the home run ball, too often, and hurt them. And I think also it was their offense. They besides the first game, they only scored more than one run one time, and it was in Game 4, and they scored 2 runs. You're not going to win games if you don't have pitching and your offense can't hit. So. Exactly. Otto, for your final question, now that the championship series are set, who do you think will win the World Series?
As much as I want the Royals to win the World Series, I honestly, especially after yesterday's game against the Dodgers, I think the Cardinals will get it done eventually. They have the experience. Like I said, they won 11. They won in 06. This is their 4th straight championship series appearance. I think they have the pitching. They have the hitting, clutch hitting from guys who aren't necessarily superstars in the league during the regular season, but they come up big, like Adams yesterday against that homer of the hanging curve from Kershaw. So I think they have the experience. They have the leadership. I think they can get it done over probably Baltimore.
Yeah, and in Matt Carpenter. I mean, he was on fire in the series, had 3 home runs in 3 straight games. I mean, he's looking good.
Yeah,
so they're not the same team they were last year, but they definitely are, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And Ellie, for your final question, with the Nationals looking poised to make a deep playoff run, were you surprised that they lost in the divisional round again?
I was a little bit, but the way they had been playing, not really. I mean, they lost on a wild pitch. Yeah. Especially, they just hit a homer from Harper. You expect them to really have a comeback, and I mean, it doesn't happen. I also thought they'd be able to capitalize more on some of the errors we saw the Giants make, and they just couldn't do it. I mean, they had been outscoring them. The Giants' hitting was slowing down. And again, they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I honestly, they were my pick to not only go but probably win the World Series. Yeah. And they just to fall short like that, it was kind of disappointing to see. But again,
mistakes are going to catch up to you.
Exactly, and you can't always rely on that. All right, well that'll do it for our rapid fire segment. After the break, we'll get into our Comin Atcha segment. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. To wrap things up, it's now time for our Comin Atcha segment, where each analyst asks the other a question made up on the spot. Ellie, we'll start with you. What was your question?
So you talked about the Cardinals. You think they're going to be your favorite to win. Sure. Going up against either the Royals or Orioles, both teams who are really hot right now, how do you think that's going to play into an effect?
Well, I think, as Brandon talked about before, the Royals, for example, don't have a long ball. If St. Louis can hit well, and specifically they can hit the long ball, they'll be fine offensively. I think their pitching can match up with Kansas City. So I think that and Baltimore, in fact. So I think that if they can get ahead offensively, they'll just won't look back and will be successful. I think the Royals have a lot of speed. I think Yadier Molina is a very, very good defensive player as well as offensive player. He can keep them in check. I think the pitchers can keep them in check. Baltimore, better hitting ball club. So I think the pitchers will have to really dig deep and control them, especially like Nelson Cruz, Markakis, Jones. But I think they can be successful. They have the leadership and the experience.
All right, and your question for her?
Of all the teams that have already been bounced out of the playoffs, wild card and divisional round, who do you think will be the most successful next year in the playoffs?
I think it's going to be, it's hard to tell, but the Nationals, I mean, they were expected to go deep this year, and they couldn't do it. They fell apart. But I think coming back next year after a long season, I think if they learn from the mistakes that they made this year, I think they could really be a force to reckon with next season.
Yeah, the first year that they were in the playoffs back in 2012,
right.
They had a disappointing season last year, but again, they bounced back. So I see them also being a threat to be reckoned with for next year as well. So well, that'll do it for this episode of The Hot Corner. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, if you're interested in joining LTV, like us on Facebook or email us at ltv@tcnj.edu. For Otto Gomez and Ellie Schuckman, I'm Brandon Magown. Have a good one.